Wandering through the grey fog of Silent Hill is ill-advised. There's no telling what awaits you just around the corner. These are the 10 worst monsters that the cursed town of Silent Hill ever conjured up. Amnion from Silent Hill Homecoming is without a doubt one of the most horrifying monsters in the franchise. The creature appears as a heavily pregnant woman on the verge of giving birth and is carried around by a mechanical device with 4 long spider-like legs. In all likelihood, Amnion is a manifestation of Alex's extreme guilt for having accidentally killed his brother Joshua via drowning in the waters of Toluca Lake. It also appears that the female figure has some kind of black tube connecting her mouth to her undercarriage, and while it's possible that this may be some kind of umbilical cord, it appears to be filled with a liquid of sorts, potentially amniotic fluid. Amnion is most likely derived from Joshua's fascination with spiders and insects. In addition, since Alex believed that his parents babied Joshua, he almost certainly perceived him as a baby, and in the case of Amnion, in utero. Amnion may not be the most horrific monster in Silent Hill, but it's definitely enough to make your heart stop. The split worm that Heather Mason encounters in Silent Hill 3 is a monstrous worm-like creature that looks like a more terrifying version of a graboid from Tremors. It is covered in a leathery lavender skin that splits open vertically to reveal an eyeless, noseless head and a set of human-like jaws. The split worm has an overtly phallic quality owing to its coloration, shape, and the fact that it crawls through various cavities in order to attack Heather. It is thus an allegory for sexual intercourse and is representative of Heather's fear of sex as a whole. I think the fact that the splitworm has human teeth just makes it that much worse. Maybe it's better to say that the splitworm is utterly repulsive more than outright horrifying, but either way, it's not something you would ever want to come across. The Abstract Daddy, which is also known as the Ideal Father and appears in Silent Hill 2, is a monster that resembles 2 deformed humanoid figures lying on top of a bed or mattress engaged in coitus. The figures seem to be draped in a layer of skin that covers their faces and bodies as though it were a bedsheet or blanket, thus making them appear tortured and suffocated. The Abstract Daddy is a manifestation of the sexual trauma that Angela Roscoe endured as a girl and may even have some connection with the memories of Mary Shepard before her untimely demise. Just when you thought a monster couldn't get much more unsettling than the Splitworm, there's the Abstract Daddy. The fact that the creature possesses human features and limbs yet is still completely inhuman makes it one of the most disturbing monsters ever seen in the franchise. Just looking at it makes me feel sick. The many ghosts that Henry Townsend encounters throughout Silent Hill 4 may well be some of the worst monsters not only in the franchise, but horror in general. As these entities are ghosts, they cannot actually be killed, only briefly subdued or held in place using a sword of obedience. What's worse, each ghost is a victim of Walter Sullivan, with some moving and behaving differently from other ghosts. For example, Cynthia Velasquez slithers like a snake and has long black hair covering her face, while Richard Braintree is violent and will phase through reality, jittering and glitching out as he does so. If a ghost manages to get close enough to Henry, he will start experiencing debilitating headaches and nausea, causing him to take damage over time. The amount of effort that went into creating the ghosts in Silent Hill 4 makes them monsters that, once you've encountered them, you'll never forget. Walter Sullivan is actually the final boss of Silent Hill 4. Even though he is human, he is utterly terrifying owing to the fact that he is criminally insane and a notorious serial killer, not to mention a religious fanatic. Walter is like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, David Koresh, and Charles Manson all rolled into one. Not a good combination. The man was insane enough to attempt the ritual of Holy Assumption in the hopes of fulfilling the 21 Sacraments and awakening Dahlia Gillespie in the process. Walter is such a terrifying monster of a man that he appeared as a conjured creature, also known as the fetus or the conjurer, in the other world. This creature is a huge corpse draped in tattered grey skin that shares a few characteristics with the Abstract Daddy. Only the top portion of the conjured creature can be seen in Silent Hill 4, and it also appears that various tubes connect to it, ostensibly sustaining it. Honestly, Walter is easily one of the most terrible monsters in Silent Hill. He may even belong higher up this list. The God, or simply God, is the final boss that Heather faces in Silent Hill 3. Why this monster is so awful is that it actually comes from Heather herself. And no, not from her uterus as in a normal pregnancy, but rather her gastrointestinal tract. Yes, Heather literally vomits God up at the end of the game. Then Claudia proceeds to eat the regurgitated fetus. Ugh, I feel queasy now. Anyway, Claudia gets pulled into a hole by Valtiel, and when Heather encounters God again, it has taken on the appearance of a gigantic skeletal creature that wears a cracked porcelain mask. God has extremely long arms and legs that lack any kind of flesh. They also end at the knee. Owing to how God is formed and how it ends up being this twisted, hate-filled creature, it is easily one of the worst monsters ever. Silent Hill never fails to push the envelope when it comes to disturbing imagery and characters. If Asphyxia didn't somehow serve as the inspiration for the human centipede, then I just don't know. This is the third boss that Alex faces off against in Silent Hill Homecoming. Asphyxia is a grotesque fusion of several mutilated female bodies that make it appear like a humanoid centipede. Asphyxia's mouth is opened wide, seemingly attempting to gasp for breath. It also has hands right next to its neck, almost as though they're about to strangulate the monster. Asphyxia is so named in a manifestation of the way Nora Holloway's mother killed her, via strangulation, and thus asphyxiation. When Asphyxia moves, it shambles in a contorted, desperate way, moving from side to side as it does so. It also shrieks and growls as it wildly flails its arms, so I think it's safe to conclude that Asphyxia is one of the most intimidating and unnerving monsters ever seen in any Silent Hill game. Now, the Missionary from Silent Hill 3 may not be particularly big, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in speed and ferocity. The Missionary is a humanoid creature that seems intelligent enough to obey orders. A brown, bloody sack covers its head, and a noose hangs from its neck. It also dons robes that strongly resemble a surgeon's smock, but the worst thing about the Missionary is that it constantly twitches and wields two long, blood-stained blades attached to tonfas. Since maternity and childbirth are running themes in Silent Hill 3, the Missionary may well represent a surgeon that carries out abortions. The sheer velocity at which the Missionary moves, as well as the fact that it simply cannot stay still, makes it a tough enemy and easily one of the most anxiety-inducing abominations in the franchise. This monster is actually my personal favorite, or should I say worst. But Scarlet is undeniably nightmare fuel. Much like the Missionary, Scarlet is able to move very quickly, but why Scarlet is so terrible is because it is extremely tall and lanky, and it also has a monstrous porcelain mask for a face that also happens to be filled with rows of needle-like teeth. It's just straight up nope. Scarlet hisses and shrieks at Alex, and if he isn't careful, she will easily overpower him and tear out his throat. Also, did I mention she crawls along on all fours like some insane spider? No thank you. Scarlet is the manifestation of Scarlet Fitch, the daughter of Dr. Martin Fitch, who dismembered her alive to appease the Order. There's just no part of Scarlet's story or design that is even remotely sane. This creature is embedded in my mind just because I actually can't stand dolls and ventriloquist dummies, so Scarlet really hits home for me. Silent Hill Homecoming may have its faults, but it still has some of the most disturbing monsters in the series. And last but not least is the inimitable Pyramid Head or Red Pyramid thing that first appeared in Silent Hill 2. Pyramid Head is actually a manifestation of James Sunderland's immense guilt for his unforgivable past actions. While it may appear that the creature carries a sword, it is in fact a giant knife. In other instances, Pyramid Head wields a great spear which it uses to impale and kill victims. The great triangular piece surrounding the monster's head is actually a massive metal helmet that weighs its head down at all times. In other words, Pyramid Head is forever cursed to hang its head in guilt and shame. To further add to its monstrous appearance, Pyramid Head wears a bloody apron much like those donned by butchers. Not only is Pyramid Head one of the most iconic monsters in gaming, but it is also practically invulnerable and immensely powerful. The reality is that Pyramid Head has become synonymous with Silent Hill and remains its most mysterious and terrifying champion, which is, strangely enough, loved by fans of the franchise all over the world. So that's it for this video. That's the 10 worst monsters in the Silent Hill series. Which of the monsters we mentioned is your personal favorite? Or is there another monster or monsters that we missed that should have been on this list? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for daily gaming, VR, and tech content. From me and the crew, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Later!